Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to deliver it. This is your Agile Product Owners podcast. I'm Cory.
And I'm Kim.
Hi.
Hi, Cory.
What are you doing?
Just hanging out.
Hanging out.
Sitting here, ready to podcast.
Relaxing.
Maxing and relaxing.
Zen.
I feel pretty zen.
Yeah?
Are you feeling zen?
No.
Really?
No.
I recently took up jogging again.
Really?
That's horrible. So bad.
I don't recommend it. No.
I don't recommend it at all. That's exhausting. But I think that's why I'm pretty zen. You know why? Because I'm just tired.
You're just, I see.
Jogging at 5 in the
You're
morning.
Not zen. You're tired.
I am tired. Is there really
is
there a difference?
I think there are differences between zen and tired and dead.
And dead.
Yes.
Well, I'm definitely not
I would
dead.
put those three things in different categories.
Bucket them.
Different exercises, different things.
What's going on with you?
Well, I am.
Are you reading?
Yeah. I did some writing too. So
really?
Our last show, one of the things we didn't talk about was I wrote a little piece about non-technical requirements non-functional requirements is what they're called. I hate those things. Mm-hmm. I hate calling them non-functional requirements because there's things like performance and scalability and all those types of things that I think should be part of your stories anyway.
I agree.
Don't call them anything else and put them on the board, basically. So I did a little writing and I did a little reading.
I saw that. It was kind of like a follow-up.
Yeah. I kind of like doing that.
Then I kind of felt like you were cheating. I'm like, that's not cool. He can follow up and he can vocalize whatever he's thinking, but what about me?
Do you want to blog on my site?
No, but
do you want to blog on your
just
site?
saying, I felt a little left out.
I'm sorry.
No, you're not.
I had a thought. I shared it.
It was a good brief blog. I did read it.
Thank you.
That's the one thing I read for today.
All right. Well, good for you. Look at you reading things. I read a very good thing. Jason Fried is the CEO of 37 Signals. Actually, it's called Basecamp now, not 37 Signals. They've split the company into different product companies, which is interesting. But he had a very good article that he reblogged that was on Medium called Give It 5 Minutes. And it was a very interesting topic for product owners, I think, for me and for other product owners, to whenever somebody has an idea, no matter where it came from or what type of an idea it is, especially if it's about product or process or your team, stop, give it 5 minutes to sink in. Don't react. Think. Think about the idea. Think about where it came from. Think about the proposal. Think about it for 5 minutes and then ask questions. Because ideas, and I love this quote, ideas are fragile.
Fragile.
Yeah, right. Ideas are very fragile. And if you stomp them, as soon as you hear them, you'll kill them. And that idea may not be the idea that you ultimately end up with, but it may lead to a discussion. And that discussion may lead to an idea, a second idea. And that's the one you ultimately go with. But I like that concept of let it breathe. Don't react immediately, which I have to remind myself constantly not to do.
But do you think it's going to piss off the person you're talking to when they come to you with an idea and then you just stare at them?
What, for 5 minutes?
Quietly.
No, I think you need a sign that says, I'm going to think about your idea for 5 minutes.
A little sign that says, contemplating your idea.
Then I'm going to react. Now, I think you can ask them questions. So if you came to me and said, hey, Cory, I want to do this. I say, oh, tell me why. Or just start asking questions. Don't just go, nah, it's stupid. No, we're not going to do that.
Oh, I would never do that. And neither would you.
No. But just to ask questions, start to explore the idea a little bit more. I really like it in terms of retrospectives and feedback that you get. Just, okay, whatever you say in a retrospective, we're going to put it on a sticky and put it on the wall, right? Because we're not going to shut down the ideas. And the same type of thing with products or anything else. Just let it sit there, let it breathe, think about it.
I think it's a good idea. And you can also bring that into your day-to-day life.
Yes.
So when your wife comes to you with an idea to redecorate the bathroom, you don't immediately shoot her down and say, no, but you contemplate and you say, why do you want to redecorate the bathroom?
Yeah.
Right. And then it makes her feel like she's validated because you're actually concerned as to why she wants to do that.
As somebody tells me all the time, Maureen, tells me all the time, your tone matters.
Maureen is correct.
Things like that.
That's very true.
And she, I'm trying to get her on for a future episode, but we're going to talk. She constantly says your tone matters. What you say matters, but your tone matters almost more.
I would agree with that.
So be genuinely curious as to why somebody's bringing you an idea. Don't just go, tell me why. God.
What now?
What now?
It's always something with you. Don't do that.
Yeah. Be careful of your tone. Practice your tone.
Yeah.
And then practice.
Smiling helps with the tone.
It does.
So even if you don't want to smile and you want to cringe, just smile. Like you're doing right there. And it kind of forces you to laugh. And then you go, why do you want to do that?
Yeah. It's easier when you have to stop and think about it. You go, okay, I'm going to do that.
I think to give it 5 minutes is a good suggestion.
I like it.
I'll take it.
All right. So today we're going to talk about story mapping.
Story mapping. I had to look down like, what are we talking about today?
We've gone over this before.
Surprise!
I could change topics on you. You wouldn't know, would you?
I'd look down. What are we talking about
we
here?
We are talking about that.
Story mapping.
Story mapping is something that both you and I have done.
We have.
Together and separately. It is a very fun exercise, I think.
It depends on your personality, but yes, I would agree that it's a fun exercise.
Okay. I think it's fun. You think it's fun.
I do think we both
in
think
this
it's
room,
fun.
100% of the people think that it's fun.
Exercise.
And it's a good exercise. And really, it's something that helps you see the larger context of what you're building in your application or the big picture that you have for your product space. And I've done it for planning. It's great for a planning activity. Mm-hmm. It's great for sharing with others. So when we've done it, I've made it so that it's not hidden. It was around the corner a couple times, but it's not hidden. I want the team. I want everybody who wants to see what I'm doing to look at this and ask questions about it.
Right. And it's also used to learn a new product. So to understand kind of what's possible and seeing the links, how things are linked together.
Yeah, and that's what we did when we did it for a new project that we were working on. We didn't understand the project or the space, but there was an existing product and we needed to understand basically what it did and how it did it. So we created a map that took up 30 feet of a wall.
Oh, so big.
It was big. And it was all stickies.
And we had to move it. Remember?
Yes.
We had to move it from one wall to the other
yes.
wall. Yes. It was huge, full of stickies.
Yep.
So this is something that is done. I don't want to go down too far down, but this is a physical thing that you do.
Yeah. And when we did it, again, it was to learn something. So we went through the activities that we're going to talk about as a learning exercise. So I'm doing it right now with my team, that I'm dealing with at State, the university team. I've done it other times as well to talk about creation of a new product or a new feature. So we can do it for either one. When we're planning our MVP or trying to walk through what type of releases we're going to build, we can do it for that. For our workflows that we want our user to have or potentially have, we can walk through at that. And it really helps to explain the actions and the things that a user wants to do in our application or what we want them to do, what type of experience we want them to have. So I like having UX people. I like having all different types contribute to this. And then we review it with everybody and then we make changes.
Right. So right now I think it's kind of nebulous as to what you're supposed to do. So basically how to get this started.
So first of all,
yes,
go buy the book by Jeff Patton. We'll have a link to that, User Stories Applied. It's a great book. He's the one who came up with this initially. And his book is the source for the majority of what we're going to talk about. That's the book. We'll link to it in the show notes, but that's the real crux of what we're trying to talk about here.
Good point. Shout out. So the first thing you need in order to perform a story mapping exercise is stickies or cards with tape. Something you can write on.
Yes. Something physical.
And that you can move around.
Yes.
So you don't want to write on a big board because you can't really move that around.
Right.
And you need plenty of space because you'll be surprised at how large these user mappings will get.
Yeah, we took the whole wall. I've also done it on a nice big table, and I've seen pictures of people just, clearing out space in the floor if they have an auditorium or something. Just do it there, or stage,
you could do it, or windows,
Yeah.
Wherever you have a flat, large surface.
Yes.
And the idea is that you're taking, you're going to have your cards or your stickies with your pens, and you're going to have your space set up and you start talking through the ideas.
Yeah. The nice thing about having them on the wall or the table or the floor is you can move them. So we're going to take these things and we're going to put them in this order, and then, maybe we need to change that order. Maybe this one needs to go over here. Great. Let's change that. And let's see it happening, and let's get different people involved in it. That's the reason you want all that space.
Right. So we say the ideas when you're actually thinking about, when you're planning the MVP, or when you're maybe creating a new product. The other thing that, if you're learning a new product, you actually want to take what's existing, and those would be their own stickies or
that's how. And the how that you do this. So we've got our stickies, we've got our space, and we're going to write on these things. David Hussman has a great idea with this. Is he wants to go a mile wide on the map and an inch deep. So we're not going to map every possible thing that we could do, but we're going to get the big ideas out there, and we're going to talk through those ideas. At the top, we're going to have our activities or our epics, the things that we want to accomplish, and then break them down into sections or themes. And then we're going to have our tasks for our stories that are going to line up on there. And for each activity, you're going to have lots of different themes. And for each theme, you're going to have lots of different stories or tasks. The format, so as a user,
don't do that.
Don't worry about that. That comes later.
Yep.
This is just for ideas and for exploration. So if your activity is purchase thing goes on the wall. And then how do you want to purchase? Well, we want to purchase by credit card, or we want to purchase by cash, or we want to purchase by Visa or something like that. Those are the types of ideas and verbiage that goes on the actual stickies.
Yeah, these are very brief, to the point action items. What can you do? What's the user going to be able to do?
Yeah, just enough to get the idea and then keep going.
Yep.
And then, like I said, we'll come back later and do the stories if we need them.
This is where the big pens come in. The Sharpies are really good.
Yes.
The Sharpie ones, that, because you can see them from a mile away.
Oh, yeah.
And those are really good to use.
Especially if you have good handwriting.
Like me.
That's correct. And if you're doing this if you're partnering with somebody to build your map, make sure that person is the one who's writing.
If they have good handwriting.
Not the person with the crappy handwriting.
Don't give them that task.
Yes. Cause you do want people to read these.
Yeah, they should be legible.
Yes. If you have your personas, or if you have your wireframes for the screens or mock-ups or anything else, put those up on the board as well, because those are useful additions to the conversation that you're having.
I would say those should be almost reference materials off to the side. I wouldn't put them within the story mapping process itself.
Not in the process,
right.
But around there. Right. Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the map should be organized from left to right.
Yeah. So we're going to build our features and our activities and everything else from most important to least important. Some people prioritize them that way, left to right.
Yeah.
Some people just put them up there, left to right. I don't have a preference. It really depends on what you're doing.
I like to prioritize them top to bottom.
We're definitely going to do that.
Just like I would do with a backlog.
Yeah, we're definitely going to do that.
Right.
And then we also can group them into releases or iterations when you're breaking down those things from top to bottom.
So what we've done in the past is, we'd have our story map, and then we'd say, okay, from this third sticky down to the seventh sticky to the right, we're going to add that into the next sprint, for example, right? And we would put a line and maybe write sprint 5 on there or whatever. And that's how you kind of break it down in terms of what chunks of work are you going to be doing within the next sprints or roadmap,
And that really helps, because when you're looking at that line, you can move things in and out of that line across the different themes and activities to show that this is how we build our MVP, or this is what we build MVP for this feature or this release. We're going to build these 3 things for this theme and these 3 things for this activity, and that's enough. And then these other things that we know about, we're going to do in this next release. So when somebody says, hey, how come I can't buy with Visa yet? You say, well, Visa's coming. It's down here.
I think that's really key, because this is a visual representation of the roadmap. And people can, when they say, well, what about such and such, you can point out, say, well, this actually is coming in later. Does it need to be pulled up? If so, we'll move it up.
Yeah.
So it's a huge benefit for not only just the team, but for the stakeholders, for your business partners, for other teams to see what you're working on, especially if there's a lot of collaboration with other teams.
Yeah, encouraging that conversation with your business or your team to go, oh, well, I think that, most of our market would rather use MasterCard than Amex, so we're going to switch those. Okay, great. Because that's more important. That'll be done first. Let's do that.
And we use the phrase walk the wall, which sounds kind of silly, but really we've walked the wall with a lot of people where basically we bring them over and we start all the way on the left and we say, let me show you how this is going to be built. Yeah. Here are our themes, here are epics, here are our stories, here are our iterations.
I was doing that last week with some designers when we were talking about the app that we're building with the students and going through the personas that we have. Okay, so this is an administrator or this is just a generic user and he wants to know some things. So he's going to come here, he's going to do these things, he's going to filter this information out, he's going to find the release he wants or whatever he's looking for. He's going to click on it and then he's going to get more information. And you walk them through that process and they go, oh, I see. You want to actually do this and then see this. Yes. And they ask questions. Well, what about this option? Should we let them choose these things? And my view, and as I was walking through them, I was like, no, we want to have some defaults here. So let's have some defaults so they get right into the app. They don't have to wait to pick something before they see something.
And on that note, what you could do is walk up to that one sticky where you talk about selecting whatever, and on the back of it, you can say default value is going to be XYZ.
Sure.
So now you're starting to actually build the stories without building the stories.
Right. Yeah. You're building it on the wall. And then when you're done with the wall and that map, that's when you come back and say, okay, let's write the story that encompasses this journey that we want the user to have for this particular feature. I really like that. And it helps others get the concept that I have in my head, and it helps to get it out so I don't have to debate back and forth with, my impression versus your impression. Right. We put them both on the wall and we walk through it and say, yes, this is right. Or, hey, what about this? Or let's see about this option. And, oh, I like that better. Let's do that.
Yeah.
I like that. The best way to do this is on a wall with stickies, right?
Right.
Once you've done with that, the best way to capture it is, of course, with Polaroids. No. The best way to capture it is take pictures, learn where these things are, and then find a tool to back it up in. If you have shareholders or stakeholders that are remote and you want to share it with them, there's definitely tools you can do that with. But the best option is always have it on your wall, have it in your space, update it, talk to it, bring others by. There's some really cool tools. The one I'm doing right now for the students is in Balsamiq.
Oh, you're
just
doing
because
one in
it's
Balsamiq?
Easy. Yeah.
Huh.
Everything lines up nice and neat.
I've done it in Excel.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, nice and neat.
Nice and neat. You can insert and remove things around.
Exactly.
There's a really good tool out there. I think that David Hussman and his team have created called cardboardit.com that does mapping, and that's what it's there for story mapping.
Is it free?
It is free.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Free is awesome.
For one or two users for one or two projects.
Okay. I would say if you do use stickies and you use a wall, back it up with some tape because those stickies tend to fall down.
They do.
And that's really frustrating when you walk past and you see a bunch of stickies on the ground with people's feet marks all over them because they've walked on top of your stickies.
Yeah. I like magnetic boards.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. But that's just, if you're going to do it, reinforce with some Scotch tape.
Yeah. And have a backup. Have something that you've noted this down in Excel, or you've put it in a tool that you can reference.
And also put big notes on the wall that says, do not remove.
Yes. In case a hurricane comes through your office.
Or an angry manager.
Or an angry manager. Yeah. But Cardboard is a really good one, and Balsamiq or any other tool or Excel that you can have that helps you communicate this out.
I want to see what you've done in Balsamiq because I didn't even realize you can do that. Or were you just creating little squares with text in them?
Yeah, it's a box with text in it.
That's all I thought meant there was like something
that's
new
all
that
it
I
is.
didn't know about in Balsamiq.
It's a representative of a sticky, a representative of a card,
right,
with a word or two on it. It's nothing exotic.
No.
But the cardboard I like because you can do those types of long form things. You can flip it over. You can give them different colors. They line up automatically.
That's nice.
It's a really cool tool for doing stuff like that.
Yeah. And if you have any sort of OCD, I would suggest staying away from the story mapping because I remember I was trying to put the stickies up. They weren't quite aligning. Do you remember?
Yes.
And I actually had somebody with a ruler and I aligned them according to the ruler. I was driving Susan crazy. Because they would just be off and then you'd like step back. You see it all kind of sloping downward. Oh, it drove me crazy.
Yeah. I have that problem myself.
Yeah.
But you can make your little grid or you can make your little, that's why I like balsamic because everything lines up.
Everything lines up.
And cardboard, everything lines up. But again, it's important to understand what you're doing. Goico has something called impact mapping. There it is. That's very similar to this, but it's more interested in why we're doing something, what type of goals we want to accomplish, how you're going to accomplish those goals, who's going to help you, and then dive into the story mapping part of it. But what impact do we want to have? What outcome we want to have? I think outcome is still the biggest part of this. Story mapping is more functional. It's more, what do we want to do to give them that thing? Whereas impact mapping starts with that goal, that why, which we should know
right
to begin with, because that's what we want them to do, what types of things we want them to do.
You know, I'd be curious how many of our listeners have used story mapping prior and what they think of it.
Yeah.
Because I never knew anything about story mapping until you brought it to my attention, and then I learned about it. It was like, this is awesome, but I haven't seen anybody else use it.
It's not, I don't think it's a common thing. I think it's a very lean thing. I think it's a very, again, it's something where you have to have an idea of what you want to do and then be willing to walk through what are the possible things. Don't just come in and say, this is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
Because you don't know that. Even if you think you know, you don't. So it's a way to explore.
It's what do we want to do? What do we want it to do?
And how could we do that? Let's look at some options. You put them on the wall, you walk through them, you take some down, you move them around.
It's a good brainstorming exercise.
I like it. And one of the things I noticed when we did ours is we found a lot of duplication.
Yes.
Right? So we put all these things out there just as what it did. And we had somebody on a video camera that talked us through that, okay, when you're in this area, you can do these things. And then we went back and looked and we said, okay, well, here's these areas. And there was like 7 or 9 of them. I forgot how many there were, but each of these areas you can do a lot of the same things. And when we asked the team, when they were looking at the code, they were learning the code. We were learning the app and the business. We went back to them and said, hey guys, does this look like the same code in the same place? And they said, no, but it should be. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Okay. Right. Well, maybe that's something we write a story for. You might write a technical story for refactoring how you do edit payments or something like that.
Yeah.
And then that's the story. And then you can take those 4 things and kind of move them into the same bucket.
I have to say too, because the story map wall was so large, 30 feet or whatever it was impressive to guests.
Absolutely.
You'd see people just walk around the building, they'd stop and they'd step back and you could see like this look of astonishment. Like, ooh.
Yeah.
I don't know what this is, but this looks important.
I like it.
Yeah,
we did have several people ask us what we were doing.
We used certain colored stickies for each of the levels.
Yes, we did.
So we had some little color coding going on.
Epics had their own color and stories had their own color.
Yeah, yeah. It actually ended up being like a living, breathing thing, and we used it for a long time.
We did.
So kudos to story mapping.
Yes. If you haven't done it, at least get the book, and we'll link to a couple of videos. So there's a very good class where David Hussman goes through. We'll link to that video where he goes through and actually does with a class, some story mapping for an app. There was a very good podcast I listened to called the Agile Revolution that did an interview with Jeff when he was in Australia. So if you like Australian accents, there you go.
I do.
And he goes through kind of the history of story mapping. So how he came up with the idea, talking about storyboards for movies and storyboards for TV shows. You know, how are you going to tell that story? Well, this is how you do it. And it becomes your map. It's effectively how you're going from point A to point B. And he took that idea and extrapolated it out into user stories, or what he was working on when he was coming up, and it turned into this technique, which others have picked up on. And again, his book is the definitive book on this. I think he just came out with a second version of user story mapping. So the first version came out, I want to say in 07 or 11, somewhere around there. So a couple years ago, at least 4 or 5 years ago. And now he's come up with another version that's got some updated stuff in it.
Oh, good.
So very good book, very good resource. And he talks a lot at conferences. Jeff Patton does lots of good information. I think there's very good visuals about what these maps look like. And they look like, I love walking by one or seeing them online and not knowing what the hell it is. Right? You just look at it and there's just stuff everywhere and you go, oh, that's a little organized. I kind of like that. Let me figure out what it is. And they'll go through and they'll mark, oh, this is our storage or this is, oh, okay. So they've got it laid out. Like some people I saw had theirs laid out horizontally instead of vertically, which takes a little processing for me to go, okay, I'm not used to that.
Huh.
Let me think about how that
Okay. I can see that.
is organized. And then they split it up vertically in their releases or their sprints. I was like, oh, okay, I got it.
I don't know. I need 5 minutes to think about that.
We'll wait. Okay. But yeah, very good technique. If you haven't done it, try it. Try it with your next feature. Try it with your next idea. After you wait your 5 minutes or while you're waiting 5 minutes, write some ideas down on Stickies and then talk through it.
Your next theme.
Yeah. You don't have to do this for your whole application, although you can. You certainly can. You can do it with just a feature or just a story or just one thing that you have. Start with that. Try it out. Give it a shot.
You know, I think I'm going to bring it back.
Okay.
I'm bringing story mapping back. I say that because I could really use it. I could definitely use it in my day-to-day life, and I've neglected it.
Even I think just for product owners,
Right.
if you need to understand something, do this. It helps because it helps solidify both your thinking and gives you something to explain to others with. And that will help you and your teams greatly to build the product that you're trying to do. So bring it back.
I'm bringing it back.
All right. So if you have any questions or feedbacks, yeah, sure. If you have more than one,
feedback.
multiple feedback about the product in our space, you can let us know. Excuse me. You can let us know at deliveritcast.com. We are on Twitter at deliveritcast, and you can email us at deliveritcast@gmail.com. And we have a question.
We do have a question from Ebenezer. I had to sing that. Ebenezer wants to know how to determine how much an epic costs. So he says, just curious to know if any of you have been able to provide the cost of an epic. For example, after it's delivered without tracking time explicitly on the epic. Imagine that a team is working on 2 epics concurrently.
Determine how much an epic costs. I'm assuming he means monetary costs.
Is it monetary or is it time or is it effort? I don't know what.
Yeah.
But when you use the word cost, I automatically assume money.
Money. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to assume that it's, I think we're going to assume that it's money here that he's asking for.
Let's assume that.
Okay. So how much does an epic cost? Well, beforehand, you can take a guess. Okay. We know that for us to do a sprint costs this much. I've done this type of budgeting before, or done this type of cost calculation before because it was needed. My mindset now is thinking that you're focusing on the wrong thing if you're focusing on how much an epic costs versus how much you get out of an epic.
The value of the epic.
Yeah, the outcomes, right? Go back to the impact mapping. But you certainly can if you have to. So you know how much your sprint costs because you know you've got a team and they cost this, and you know you've got that team's velocity is this, so you can divide it up to say, you know, it's just math at that point, right? And you know if an epic has these stories, these 6, 7 stories, however much it is, you can total that up at the end and say this epic costs this much over this much of time to produce, right? That's your cost of the epic. Beforehand, how do you know that?
Right. I mean, in terms of requirements gathering.
Yeah.
Of scoping it out.
You have to be really good at understanding your prior estimates. So if you know that your team is really good at estimating stories, but not epics, then okay, maybe you've got a ballpark figure, right? So I would do that where somebody would say, here's this thing that we want, this new app that we want to build. And I would look at it and go, okay, that looks pretty big. It does these things. It's got these graphs. We know we built something similar at this size. That size costs us X.
Assuming you had that historical data.
Right. And I did. So that's what you have to have first is historical data, or you're just making a swag.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
But I would go to them and say, okay, for that type of an app, usually costs between X and Y based on our historical numbers. So for that, I would say X and Y. Then after we built it, I would come back and say, okay, for my own purposes, because humans are bad at estimating things. I said it would cost between X and Y. It costs Z. Where is that? Is that right in line? Is it over or under? How good, A, were we at estimating? And then B, how good am I at determining what that product's going to cost? Because that's part of our role is we have to figure out how much it costs. And then we take it to the next step, which is how much of an investment, a return on our investment did we get? So if we say it costs between $100,000 and $200,000 to create this, it costs $180,000. Great. What did we get back from it? What was the goal? What was the outcome we wanted from that? Did we want to earn $1 million on that investment? Did we do that? Let's track it. So it's not just the cost, although those are important, but let's track it through the cost, the estimation, the release, and then the metrics that we're going to use as we go forward to say, we've got this much of an investment back.
That's right, Cory. You preach it.
Dude, agree or disagree, Kim?
I completely agree.
The numbers were blowing.
Did you see my eyes kind of roll back a little bit?
I saw you thinking for
I was thinking,
a minute.
and then I was like, oh, it's too much conversation right now.
Well, it's about the money, right? That's once you get into money and once you start talking about
just Ebenezer, just say it doesn't matter what it costs. You want to get it done.
Well, my first question is, what do you want out of this? So no matter what it costs, okay, what do you want to get out of this?
Money is irrelevant.
It's not irrelevant. It's a useful tool for determining something else, right?
Yes.
But so somebody says, I want to know how much this costs. Okay. Is it because you want to know if it's a good investment? So if you're expecting something to return.
If you ask the price, you can't afford it.
Yeah. It's one of those things. Or if you know something, if you're only going to get, let's say $500,000 back, but it's going to cost you, 40% of that to create it, is that a worthy investment?
Let's bring this simple. Let's just simplify.
Simplify it. Go.
Okay. Pair of shoes, $50.
Here we go.
I look at the shoes. I say, how often am I going to wear these?
Yeah.
Am I going to wear these once for, a party that I'm going to, or am I planning on wearing these every weekend?
Yeah.
Now, if I'm only going to wear them once to a party, do I want to spend $50 to wear them once? Because that's the cost per wear is $50.
There you go.
Or do I want to spend $2 cost per wear because I'm going to wear them for the next 6 months?
You can think of it in terms of shoes or return on investment. It's still the same thing.
I agree with your answer, though, Cory.
You're just substituting shoes for stories or features. Because that's how it helps you.
That's right. That's how I think about things.
Whatever it takes.
Thank you.
I'm glad we kept you engaged during the shoe discussion.
I stayed awake for that one.
Go.
That's a great question, Ebenezer.
Thank you very much. Okay. Any other questions about shoes or cost or user stories or mappings?
No, but again, I'm bringing mapping back.
Yeah. Well, it has some good links. There's some really good information about there. There's not any short articles, sadly. So you have to dig in and start doing some, but it's really fun. Once you
do it,
yeah.
It's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
I mean, it's logical and it makes sense and you can clearly see the results are beneficial for everybody involved.
Yeah. It's very good.
Yep.
So try it. We don't know what we're going to talk about for episode 17.
Oh, 17.
But we do know what we're going to talk about for episode 18.
What are we talking about for 18?
18, we're going to have a guest.
We are finally.
Yes,
Who's
Mr.
our guest?
Bob Galen.
Mr. Galen is
the big
joining
daddy
us.
of product ownership.
Can we call him Big Daddy when he comes in the
Let's
studio?
not. Let's
I'd
not.
be like, he rolls up in here and I'm like, what's up, Big Daddy?
I don't think that would be, maybe
up, Big
before
Daddy
we record,
Galen?
but not after. So he's going to come talk to us. He's doing a class. I think he's already done the class, up in Boston for Product Ownership 2.0.
Oh.
Is what he calls it. So we're going to talk about what he talked about in the class.
Yeah.
And kind of the next level for product ownership.
I'd love to hear this.
Evolution.
Okay.
Product ownership, or how to refine the current things. So that's what we're going to talk about with Bob.
Cool. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, and I'm lining up some other guests. And then, so we'll talk about that. So any topics or suggestions for episode 17 or beyond, let us know.
Let us know. We're always looking for suggestions.
There you go.
And opportunities to talk.
Yes. on the microphone.
To each other.
That's right. All right. Otherwise,
disclaimer time?
Yes, it's disclaimer time.
All right.
These words are our own and are not endorsed or representative of any company or organization. You can find me online at iscoreybryan on Twitter, and more frequently blogging now at don'tyellatme.wordpress.com.
And as always, you know where I can be reached.
Show contact.
That's right.
There you go. And we just delivered episode number 16.
16?
For Legal Drive.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much for joining us today. We'll see you next time.
See you later.